Now this next slide shows definitely what not to do. The steel shaft actually has a flat spot, which may be hard to see. This occurred because it was sanded in one spot too long, or someone tried to sand it against a grinding wheel. Think about this for a second. If a shaft is no longer round, then there's a problem, as the walls are probably going to be too thin in the areas that are flat or not rounded, and they're going to be likely to break at some time in the future. The graphite shaft actually has a visible step created by sanding entirely too much or potentially not rotating the shaft and inspecting it every once in a while. I don't care how much these shafts cost. I wouldn't install this shaft into any head. The cost of a potential lawsuit will be several-fold of what the cost of the shaft would be. So it's important to take your time and abrade the shaft correctly the first time. And lastly, I want to go over a few more items. I spoke earlier about putters with an over-the-hosel assembly, or where the shaft fits over a post. You won't be abrading the shaft, but you will want to lightly abrade the post to ensure a good epoxy surface. And before sanding them, you want to test the fit of the shaft onto the post. The last thing you want to do is have a loose fit at first, and then put the post on a belt sander and make that fit even worse. What you want to just do is lightly sand with some sandpaper, and that's going to be sufficient unless the post is on the plus side of the tolerance, where it'll take some time to hand sand. Just make sure you have the appropriate size shaft for the putter you're going to be using, because not all are the same size. And I want to go over this point again. Even when you do sand to the appropriate abrasion with steel, but more importantly, graphite shafts, you might run into a situation where the tolerance of the shaft is going to be on the plus side. That is, after abrading, the shaft's still not going to fit into the hosel. Now, there's some tolerances with hosel diameters too, but it's very small, as manufacturers have been able to control these much better over the years. But your first inkling may be to abrade the shaft just a little bit more, thinking, yeah, what's the harm? Well, you should refrain from doing so, as not to damage the shaft or create a potential breakage situation at a later date. In the cases like this, you just want to enlarge the hosel by reboring it. This can be done with a drill bit and a hand drill with a club secured in a vise, or you can use like a fixture that will secure the head under a drill press. And if you build enough clubs, you're going to eventually have to do this from time to time, and it's considered, again, a normal club making procedure. Don't worry, the small amount of material you're taking out often is just a few thousandths of an inch, and it's not going to harm the strength of the hosel. Just make sure to obey all safety precautions when drilling out the head, and work at slow speeds so you don't bind up the drill bit. As you can see, there are a number of abrasive products on the market to abrade or roughen both steel and graphite shafts. These I've shown today are the recommended ones, as they've been used successfully by club makers over the years. If you're on a budget and you have all the time in the world, there are a few hand methods to use depending on whether the shaft is steel or graphite. If speed and precision are required for your situation, invest in some sort of belt sander. Hand drills or motors with arbors which will also work, but the appropriate sanding devices usually aren't found at the component supply houses, so that's something to think about. Make sure you have the proper amount of abrasion to assure a good epoxy bond, and don't over abrade, whether it's steel or graphite, because that's one of the leading causes of breakages. And if you follow these steps, you're going to be well on your way to becoming a proficient club maker. Now, let's turn it back over to Rob, and we can field any questions that you have.
Okay, folks, you can start typing in your questions. First question comes from Mark. Jeff said that when abrading on a belt, we should go in the opposite direction that the belt is turning. Did I hear him correctly? I know that the ferrule finishing session is coming up, but should I abrade shaft tips opposite direction of the belt, but finish ferrules in the same direction of the belt?
Good question. I usually go against the belt. I think it cuts better that way. You could try it both ways to see which way you get the finish that you're looking for. I'm trying to think because I've done it so often, but it's one of those things that you don't remember how you actually turn it. But I think on the ferrules, I'm also turning it against the belt.
So against on both?
Yes.
Great. Okay, John asks, would you recommend a hand reamer rather than drilling hosel if size is too small? Reason being, so to have better control over angle?
I don't think one is any better than another, because a lot of times even with hand drill, it's going to take the path of least resistance. So chances that you're going to rebore the hosel a couple degrees one way or another is probably not going to happen. I would probably prefer to use the hand drill, or actually I prefer to use the drill press, but the hand reamer, that'll be up to you whether or not you can take enough material out.